I'm Stephanie Sheldon, and I'm the founder of the Cleveland Flea Market, as well as Foundry. The Cleveland Flea is a business incubator for small creatives in Cleveland, and Foundry supports them through classes, workshops, branding, and visioning. So, I get to work with a lot of great, innovative, creative people every single day. I grew up in Michigan. I went to the University of Michigan with a degree in architecture for actually undergrad and grad school. After graduate school, I moved to Cleveland, and I've been here about 8 years now. I'm really interested in being in a Rust Belt city, in a place that has a lot of opportunity for growth and that needs a lot of love and needs the country to sort of surround it and lift it up. But the people are great here. That's one of the reasons I've stayed. There's just a great opportunity to run your own business and to connect with people who want to change the city. So that's really why I'm drawn to a city like Cleveland. I'm really passionate about helping small businesses grow, especially creatives. I really want to help people take ideas to fruition and really help them live their best lives. So I do that through the flea market as a business incubator, but through Indie Foundry, I actually can involve a lot of coaching and support and kind of things that aren't necessarily involved in business school, and a lot of advice and kind of life coaching that comes along with being a creative and starting your own business. So I really just want people to live their best lives, and I want to help them take their ideas out into the world in a way that can support them and so that they can be happy. I'm also really passionate about building cities, and that probably has to do with my architecture background, but I just see that cities can be shaped by people who understand what we might be lacking, what we could bring to the city, how creativity can change how people live every day. So in addition to small business generation, I really love to leverage that, and especially my event, the Cleveland Flea, into changing neighborhoods, changing cities, and really inspiring a city to grow in ways that it embraces itself and it embraces creativity. So the reason I like to work with creative small businesses, and especially people who are maybe leaving a job that they may not love to start something that they really love, is because I was that actual person not that long ago. When I moved to Cleveland in 2007, the economy started to kind of go downward a little bit, and I found myself in a position of my firm closing, my architecture firm closing, and I had always been really interested in making things and always had side projects that really, really inspired me. And so I had a choice at that point to continue looking for a job in architecture that probably I would not really be happy in, or be a little bit brave, take a little bit of a leap and start my own company. And so that's just what I did. And so I've been through all of those highs and lows with starting your own business and leaving the security and comfortability of a paycheck, but also kind of stepping into that scary zone of doing your own thing. And that's why I particularly love working with this type of business, because I've been there myself and I know what they're going through, and I really feel like certain that I can help them get through that. I think the biggest factor in starting a small business, or in taking your small business to another level, or in just putting your ideas out there, is we can sometimes fall into this trap that we think that everyone else knows something we don't, or people have all the answers and we don't, so we shouldn't take the leap because we're not prepared enough. And so I think what I want a lot of people to know out there is that every idea started somewhere, and it's really through trying and failing and trying again and failing again and then finally trying again and succeeding, that's how you get there. So there's no one answer for everybody. There's no one thing that people know that you don't. I think that I'd love people to think that they can make it, that their idea deserves to be seen and to be heard, and will be such a great part of their own story and of the story of wherever community they're a part of, whether it's a city or a creative community or even just their office. So I would love to encourage them to think that they can do it. And again, I'd love to encourage people to do things, so try. Don't be worried about failing. Just get yourself out there. Just reach for the stars. Just realize that you're going to fail and kind of have a little humor about it, because it's going to happen more than once and you're just going to move forward. And I think I want people from a lot of those experiences to feel brave and to feel that they've made it through. Because a lot of times, once we even get through some of those difficult points, we don't stop and pat ourselves on the back, and we don't say, like, this is a great idea, we did this. So I really encourage people to take the leap and have faith that they can do that. They can do what they'd like to do, and then, just be conscious that you're working hard and pat yourself on the back every once in a while. Well, my future really looks like helping more of my community. So I like to talk about things instead of like a horizontal integration, which for me means more flea markets, more locations, spreading myself thin. I really want to do something kind of like vertical integration, which is like just providing a deeper experience and deeper content, deeper skills, deeper support for my community, which is small creatives. So my future in the next few years will hopefully bring a new space for us all to gather and have workshops and connect and grow our businesses even more. And my future will definitely be helping more people. And actually, I would love to speak more. I would love to reach out to people in a lot of different ways. So even beyond Cleveland, I would love to just connect with more creatives and more people that are taking chances and shaping cities and in shaping the world. So that's absolutely what my future has in store for me. And what I see happening in the future for my community, and really how it relates to the world, is we're a much more connected world now. Just with interviews like this, you can reach people in so many different places, so many different parts of the world. And that's a very different economy. That's a very different connectivity than people have been used to in the past. And that's also particularly why small businesses and creative businesses really work, because you can start a business in a day by launching online. So as long as you know what you want to do, as long as you are able to get that out online, there's so many people to connect with. So many people will reach out to you. And so for me, the world is moving in this more connected way. The challenge that I see is through this connection, there's also still a bit of disconnection because we sort of don't have these personal moments with each other. But I also feel like if we prioritize that again and use the tools that we have to form greater connection, then I think that that's going to be a huge turning point in how businesses run, how people connect through online, and especially for my community that really needs support, we'd certainly gain it online and greater opportunities for provide themselves. So it's just, for me, I see the world going that way. So being in kind of the visual realm, myself being a graphic designer and understanding the power of visual communication, we really leverage that to build our business. We launched the flea market in early 2013, and we really launched it as an online campaign. And Facebook was very integral to that. We started out with obviously 0 followers. You just start out where you start out, and now in 2014, November, we are at about 13,000 subscribers or fans. And our online community has really driven our ability to grow. And I think it's partially because, it's actually fully because we create graphics and sentiments that inspire people and engage them, and don't just merely provide information, but they provide a way for people to join in that rising tide that Cleveland and other cities like Cleveland are going through right now. So we invite people to be a part of our community, and our online platform is absolutely for that. So it's just an extension of our warm and positive attitude that we have on site, and then this lives online. So for me, leveraging digital communication through visuals is just key. We would not have grown if we did not have that shared platform and that community that has actually sprung from that. My hope for cities like Cleveland, or I mean, really just any city, is that cities become more geared toward helping people live better lives. So as our cities grew, I just watched a great documentary about this weekend, but as our cities grew, we became more and more isolated. Cities became harder and harder to bike or walk through. And a lot of this ends up contributing to an unhealthy lifestyle for people, but yet they don't have really a choice in the matter, or it's very difficult for them because, again, you're choosing between your livelihood and supporting your family or maybe your own personal happiness, and that's a really tough choice. And I would really hope that our cities can be driven to combine those two aspects. And, I live a life where I work from home. I'm lucky enough to be able to bike in my city because I don't need to go too far. And that's really contributed positively to my mental and emotional health. Absolutely. I'm just much happier living that type of lifestyle. I can cook at home. I can connect to my neighbors. I think that our cities have a responsibility to provide us with a lot of that sort of human scale attributes that really support us having and living healthier lifestyles. So that's my hope for cities. So our focus with the Cleveland Flea Market and with Indie Foundry is really to increase connection. So connectivity in our world is really, really important. It helps small businesses grow. It helps people understand other people. It helps businesses further their involvement with the community. It helps shoppers connect with vendors. It helps vendors connect with vendors. It helps on so many multiple levels. And I think that was a big piece before Indie Foundry and before the Cleveland Flea emerged. Everyone was very disconnected. And so for me, that's such a huge key in our business, is providing a platform for connection, for connectivity, and whether that's through online, whether that's through actual events and networking, whether that's through stories that we tell. We're always trying to draw that connection between the authenticity of a maker and maybe the need or desire of a shopper, and then also connecting people back to their community. So for me, that's just such a huge part of what we do every single day here. What we've realized here through the Cleveland Flea Market is that there's actually quite a disconnect between the city government and the state government and the actual small business. So I would really love to form a connection between those two, and maybe that means to have someone in the office at the City of Cleveland that's really dedicated to working with these, I would call them micro businesses or very small businesses, because they face very unique challenges. And when they're growing and potentially opening up a storefront or driving an economy in their small way, it can be really disheartening to watch them go through this process and not be supported at the city level. And it's just a struggle for them anyway. So I think the city, the state government could be so much more well connected to these micro businesses because they have amazing ideas and they also have the power to change the landscape of a city. And they should be helped and understood rather than sort of dinged or penalized for things that they may or may not understand. So I would love to have a better connection with our city government, with our state government. So being a woman in business and in the type of development work that I'm in, it can be a little bit tricky. I think also every small business and every creative business needs support. So we often at the office talk about establishing your creative cabinet. And for me, that is finding people, whether they're men or women, who will always hold you up. Typically, it's not going to be your family, because even though they love you no matter what, they're not going to always give you the hard truth that you may need, or possibly even understand your scenario. So being a woman in business, I've really had to be conscious of how I'm perceived, how I how I also hold others to a standard, and in how I look to find others who I can draw on from their own inspiration or their own experience. So it's difficult sometimes when you're up against things that maybe you don't understand. And in my world, I deal with developers, I deal with contractors, I deal with people in city government, I deal with real estate agents, I deal with a lot of men that maybe I don't exactly understand what they're doing, or I may not exactly understand everything about what their jobs are, but I also have to remember that no one does. And I've just been very straightforward. I've been very strong. I've learned to value my ideas, even if I feel a little shaken, by others. And like I said, I have my creative cabinet, and a lot of those people in my cabinet are made up of really strong women who are doing things in a way that I'm really proud to say that I know them, and I'm really happy that they're around. I'm very, I look to them for their own experience, and I don't know if I would be where I am without these women, and men actually, who are just, they're all supportive of the greater goal and the greater person that I am. And I think that is so important when you're doing anything that can be creative or putting yourself out there and you feel a little vulnerable. You need those people to support you. The other side of my business, Indie Foundry, is really dedicated to telling stories and branding stories. And I have this unique ability to, well, it's probably because I'm a middle child, but I have a unique ability to really understand people around me. I think because I had to navigate between an older brother and a younger brother and really understand each other's point of view, I became really good at that. And so I naturally fell into branding, because part of branding is telling stories. And then you realize the power of a story. And then when you start branding companies that are small businesses, they're really driven by the authentic person that's behind that business. So branding their story with authenticity has become really important to me. And we do that through the flea market in a lot of different ways. We do photo shoots with our vendors. I get to know them, I talk to them, and all the while I'm learning more and more about them as people, which tells me more and more about them as a business. So then when I go to talk about them online, when I go to pitch stories about them to other sources, I know what drives them. And many of my clients say, how did you get into my head? You know exactly what I'm thinking. And I think it's just because I know how to ask the right questions and listen to them. And I look for what authentically drives them. And a lot of that I don't think is learned in business school, but it's really learned in just listening to the to humans talk and human connection, human interaction. And again, just understanding how to listen to people and find the authenticity. So we spend a ton of time branding stories and putting stories out there that have a purpose and have an intent. And typically that intent is to further increase the knowledge of a vendor's point of view, how things are made, the person behind the business, and then it's also to really grow that business, help them get their voice out there. And so that is a very, very important part of what we do here at the Flea Market and Indie Foundry. Somewhere that we would love to move forward is in really increasing the dialogue among a lot of other maybe disparate professions. So what our creatives have to teach others is really important, and what others have to teach us is also really important. So I love speaking. I love bringing my creatives to places where maybe others don't understand the connection of why they're there. I think that dialogue and including people of diverse backgrounds is really important to connect a city, to provide different perspectives. And a lot of times we can stay within our own little kind of community or bubble, which is a wonderful community of artisans. But when we go out into the community and engage in dialogue with others who are very different from us, it's always so overwhelming and so helpful. It grounds us, it gives us perspective, and we're always looking for other organizations who really value dialogue and inclusion. And like I said, it may not be, you may not be able to predict those conversations or the dialogue that comes out of it, but just getting different people in the same room always brings about such rich conversation. And so I think we would love to start moving forward and engaging other types of businesses, other parts of the city, other cities even, because there's just such a shared human experience that can bring us so much closer together. At Indie Foundry, we spend a ton of time researching and presenting that information to our community. So one thing that really drives me is just learning more about my niche market, which are small creatives, learning what they're going through, learning what drives them, really understanding them. And that takes a good amount of research. A lot of that research for me is done through interviews. It's done through just talking to people, learning where they're excelling, where they're not excelling, learning what they need, and also learning how they like to learn and how information gets to them in a way that is applicable to them and that they can bring in. So we spend a ton of time, like I said, making questionnaires for people that I think ask them questions in an interesting way, in a creative way, because that's how they respond. And then we analyze that information and turn it into blog posts. We turn that into infographics. We turn that into e-courses. We turn that into workshops. We turn that into data that we can approach other professions with, so accountants or lawyers. We can say to them, hey, we've got this data here. These people are telling us that they don't know enough about accounting. And the reason why is because they're intimidated. So when we do research, it's always twofold. It's to understand where people are going. It's to understand where they're getting tripped up. It's to understand where they want to go. And then it's a lot of times to understand why they're getting tripped up. And then we take that data and approach other people, create blog posts, create infographics, create content that can speak to that. And we share that on our blog, our website, through social media. And it's one of the most fun parts of my job. It takes a lot of time to digest things down and to represent them in a very beautiful way. But when I get time to do it, it's one of the favorite parts of being an Indie Foundry. We share our data with neighborhoods, with the city of Cleveland, with developers. A lot of the data, besides understanding our niche market and our community, our tribe, if you will, we also understand and analyze the economic impact that we have as an organization, as the Cleveland Flea Market. And so we create anonymous surveys that our vendors fill out after each flea market, and it provides us with a really great idea of how much people are making, how much people are spending, and we can really share that with others who I think would benefit from that. Because really, when you're running your own small business or your own event, you can tend to forget that you need to explain who you are in a lot of different ways to people. And sometimes people underestimate or maybe just don't understand exactly the impact that you're having. And so boiling things down into numbers as well as words, as well as images, is really important. And so we don't do a ton of analysis on economic impact other than understanding how much people are making and how much people are spending, how much time they're there, and also kind of how is it extended into the neighborhood surrounding. But all of that data has been super helpful for us, and it really helps some people take us seriously who I think would not otherwise. And so it's important to understand what data you need to connect to other people. And so when I was talking before about being connected more to the state and to the city, that is the type of data that I think they would absolutely understand, and that would pique their interest. And so it's really important to be able to analyze your data in different ways, in ways that are important to the people you need to be connected to. Well, when we talk about networks, they're really important to us. And we've learned, though, that establishing networks can be much more about just basic human connection. I'm not a big fan of networking events, and I do have my own version of networking events that really kind of take a lot of the stuffiness, a lot of the structure, the inherent structure out of networking events, and actually kind of restructure them around things that people enjoy, which is good food, good drinks, good conversation, good ambiance. It's just a really core philosophy for me, and it seems very hard, I think, for professional businesses, in quotes, to achieve, because there's a measure of sort of an intangible creative feeling or aesthetic there that I think my architectural background really helps me achieve. Also, growing up, I was always the one who wanted to make everyone happy and create a surrounding that would encourage engagement. I just wanted people to smile in my house. I wanted my parents to smile. I wanted my brothers to smile. And so I really became very in tune to what people are looking for in order to be comfortable and open and vulnerable. And that's a lot of times what shapes my networking events. That's very different than I think what most people would do, because that may come across as being unprofessional. And I like to encourage people that that's not unprofessional, that's just being human, because businesses are made up of people. I tell my clients this all the time. Businesses are just people interacting with other people. So if you take out the sort of human condition and people are uncomfortable, that connection doesn't really have a chance to take hold. And so we really focus on dialing things back to having an enjoyable time at any sort of networking event that we do. The flea market is again another extension of that. How can we make sure people are comfortable, happy, and feel at their best? And so it's something that's taken me a long time to understand how to integrate with the larger business community. But I think that the more events that we have and the more diverse people that we bring into them to engage with our core group of people, that really helps us understand the gap between, maybe the professional small business or large scale business kind of thought leaders and our micro business thought leaders. Well, the most important thing to me in establishing networks and in finding people that can help you grow your business or just help you live a better life is really understanding those other people. So a lot of our events, like I said, are really about creating vulnerability and saying that's okay and connecting on a very authentic level. And for me, that's the most important type of networking that we've done, because we put people in tough situations, not really tough situations, but ones that expose their authentic questions, and we take down a lot of barriers and a lot of walls, because I find that within my community, networks spread by understanding people very well, because then when you see somebody else, you think, oh wow, I just heard so-and-so talking about this the other day. You could totally help them. And that's how networks are spread among the creatives that we work with. It's really just about letting people know exactly what you need, and that can be a little scary sometimes. And then that person carrying that with them and caring enough about you and caring enough about that network to remember that and to think of the greater community as something that they're a part of, so that when they're walking around and they meet somebody, they immediately think of, oh wow, this person said something to me the other day, and you should meet them. And that is really how networks are connected among our creatives. It's really just about knowing people very well and understanding that you want to be part of growing that larger community. So part of my philosophy as a small creative business owner is to create a set of rituals for myself, or a rhythm in my work life, in my personal life, that helps to balance both of them. And a big part of that is keeping myself grounded. So the first thing I do every morning, and I did it this morning, is I wake up and I journal for a little while. It's called Morning Pages. It's another creative, I believe, came up with that, and it's something I've picked up along the way. And then I read a book called The Book of Awakening, a passage from it every day. It's by Mark Nepo. He's a philosopher, and he's found his way into my work life and my personal life, and he's sort of that hinge that connects both of them. And I read a passage every single day, and it sort of gives me a little bit of perspective again, because we can all wake up with a long to-do list on our mind, thinking about everything we've got to get done, thinking about how behind we are in things, being stressed about situations that may have come up. But that's just the human condition. That's not really going to go away. So what I've learned through my life that's really served my business is that we each have the ability to control our reaction to things, and also to control how we start each day. And so I start each day in almost a meditative way, in my own way, where I really contemplate a thought that really brings me closer to sort of the oneness of everybody and the connectivity of everybody. And then that thought is really a mantra that can stick with me all day. So this can sound like, I like to say, a little woo-woo, but for me, it's just about understanding that we're all human, and that difficult situations may arise during the day, and understanding at the base level that people are just people, and everyone is going through something, and that you also have to be compassionate to yourself and kind to yourself. That really influences how I speak to people. It influences how I answer emails. It influences how I connect with people, and it just brings me greater calm and greater joy, and really finds a way to bring me more energy to my work. Well, for me as a creative, the most important thing was to connect to my group. And now I see the power of that, because the power of connection through City, through just the group that we work with, really has had such a profound effect on neighborhoods and on the city, and even on the media, on what people are talking about. I see how captivating these people are, creatives, because they think differently. And I hear over and over again, how did you get to where you are? Not even just me, but just about a lot of our makers, a lot of our creatives. And it really drives home that they think differently. So I think for me, the next big enterprise is to fully understand that and use that collective energy and that collective group mentality, that creative mentality, to really affect change within the city. Because now we have a voice, and now people are interested, developers are interested, engineers are interested, anthropologists are interested. People who want to understand economics and other people are taking notice, because we act as a group now, and we're seen as a bigger voice than just one person. And so it's a kind of big nut to crack, but for me, really understanding our place as creatives and how we can shape a city is really kind of the next thing for me. I think someone had recently said something about there needing to be a creative director position for a city, and I think somebody was running for that in Toronto, and it's just something that, why did that not occur to me? So why can't we rethink how government is run? Why can't we rethink how our schools are run. Why can't we think creatively about a lot of aspects of our lives? And so how do this small creative, this mentality, how do we scale that to something larger and get people to take notice of it? And that is absolutely the big opportunity that I see going forward. Since my ideas are really based in the passion that I have for what I'm working on, I really like to move quickly to execute them, which is one of the reasons why I work in a pop-up architectural world, because I don't need to spend 3 years building out infrastructure to affect change. And I think that one of the main attributes that I bring is just energy. And so moving quickly really harnesses that energy and inspires people and gets them excited to be a part of things. So for me, I love sinking my teeth into large-scale projects, but I also feel really strongly that moving quickly from idea to execution is really paramount if you want it to really gain the public's attention. Well, mostly it manifests, this energy manifests itself in every little moment that I spend online. So I like to tell my clients when we're doing exercises that your life is just made up of small moments. So for me, I realize the power of a small moment. And just for one example, I create a lot of visual imagery for my campaigns, and I find that if I invest in that, in those small moments every single day, and put a piece of content out there that's really engaging and that really only took me 10 minutes because I was so excited about the idea and I got it right out there, that it has a lot of energy and can really bring back the excitement that I need the public to be involved in, and the level of excitement I need them to have about my projects. And so I really capitalize on the tiny moments rather than spending a lot of time cultivating a 3 or 5 year plan, because to me I lose steam. And so even though I may be working on things long term, I really like to work in the short term, and those short, small bursts of excitement, of energy, of momentum that I think people really respond to online these days. It's just the type of content that they're reading, that they're looking at, that they're bringing into their lives. I just don't want to bore people with a lot of long, drawn-out explanations. I would rather get small, very succinct, very bold statements out there that can really inspire people the way that I need them to be inspired. Well, if I was working with a city within their own offices, the first thing I would do is look inward. And I would look at the happiness and excitement of each individual person within the city government, because I think that a huge disconnect is, or something that people don't understand at least, is the bureaucracy involved in getting things done through the city can really kill an idea, and it can really kill the spirit of the person working within the city. So I think people need to love what they do. I say this all the time. That's why I help creatives leave jobs that they don't love and create things that they do love, because I think that if you do what you love, you will do it better. If you don't do what you love, and if you also don't feel respected or cared for or valued within your job, you're not going to do a great job at that. And so a huge part of why I think the city or bureaucratic institutions, or just even large-scale companies, if they're not invested in their company culture, then I really think that that company will lose so much energy and so much potential for changing things and for acting in a way that is so helpful to the city around it. I think that's particularly true of cities, of governments. I think when I see cities that are more creative, and when I see content or strategies coming out of those, when I look at those offices, I realize, oh, somebody is heading this up, and that person cares and also gets involved with everyone in this company. And they promote autonomy, they promote creative thought, they promote loving your job and having some autonomy and care for what you do. So I think the number one thing that I would bring to, to that discussion would be, how do you guys operate on a daily basis to make people happier within your own office? And I would start there. So we love collaboration here at the Cleveland Flea and at Indie Foundry. We realize that no one can do everything on their own, but we really hold our partners to a high standard of collaboration. So we don't just sell our services or act as advertisement for people. We find people and organizations who have aligned goals, and we expect them to support us and be kind to us, treat us like humans just as much as we would do with them. And that can be very tough in the business world, because you find a lot of people who just say, well, it's just business, it's not personal. And I understand that to a certain degree, but really I think by making things more personal and more human, and involving more collaboration, you just have much more purpose in what you do, and your ideas have so much more ability to change the lives of others. And so for collaboration among leaders, we really love to say that it's more than just titles and more than just looking good on paper to have organizations collaborate. You really have to do something together. So, we love working with other people. We see collaboration at such a small scale, but within our makers, but also in such a large scale. And really, it's just about creative thought and bringing diverse people together for a shared purpose. So collaboration for us is key. We involve ourselves with a lot of people who see the benefit of having us around, because let's say we bring a lot of people to a certain area, but without ever asking us what they can do for us. And it just seems very one-sided. So we really preach collaborative models, and at the very outset, aligning your goals and aligning your missions. And so we can sometimes shake a few people by asking them those questions, but it's absolutely necessary in order to have a very positive, great work environment and work relationship through collaboration, is to understand why you're doing it and how you're helping somebody and how they're helping you. When we work with our clients, we help them find what we call their dream collaborators. And the questions that we have them answer are, who ideally would you align yourself with? Who has similar goals to you? How can they benefit you? And how can you benefit them? And so we realize that it's very often that we find people that see how someone can help them, but they rarely think, well, what do I then provide? Because a lot of times we think of money as being sort of the only way that businesses interact with each other, or what they can offer someone else. But when we deal with the Cleveland Flea and we deal with Indie Foundry, a lot of times we're not dealing with money. And what I mean by that is, we go into a neighborhood or to a vacant storefront or to a part of town that needs exposure. We don't pay them for their space, because we offer them something different. We offer them exposure. We offer them our consultative services. We offer them energy. These are all things that are a little bit intangible and are very hard, I think, to create. I think as creatives, and as a creative entrepreneur myself, I understand this very well. This is something I'm very good at, which is why I write contracts with my sites and say things like, we will not pay you. We are this is a consultative, collaborative partner agreement. And I really make it known up front that that is what we bring to the table. And if people don't get that, they're not a good partner for us. And we've had a lot of real estate partners not get that. And because we don't bring money to the table, which we actually could, but we just don't, because we bring something even more important to the table, we've stepped away from a lot of partnerships because they wouldn't work. And so aligning your goals at the outset, answering those questions, both parties answering those questions, what can I do for you? What can you do for me? And taking money off the table for those answers. That's, I think, how true collaboration works really well, because you've got to have an altruistic aim that supports each other, and that has to come before even money is discussed. We deal with a lot of money. We counsel our clients in talking about money. So it's not that we are, sidestepping or negating the power of money, but to be honest, I really think energy and ideas are a lot harder to create than money. And so I think making sure that the ideas and the aims and the goals are there first it's so important to us. And like I said, we've turned down a lot of money and a lot of offers and a lot of partnerships because those goals have not aligned. So the things that we look for in our collaborating partners are, number one, that they get us. And what that really means to me is that they understand who we are, they understand our aims, they're thoughtful and respectful towards those aims. Number two is that we have purpose together. So if I don't have purpose in our collaboration, or my partner doesn't have purpose in our collaboration, it's not going to work. And the third thing is that it grows each other. And that could be financially. That could mean we get paid to be a part of this. That could be that we increase our sales somehow. That could be that we increase some kind of part of our business that grows our business. And that translates definitely into money at some level. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they pay us in the sense that they give us money or that we give them money, but that we're both equally growing our businesses. So it's really similar to what I tell my clients when I coach them to understand what their dream client will be, is that number one, they have purpose. Number one, that they get them, the client understands them. Number two, that they have purpose. And number three, that they get paid adequately. And so that translates into collaboration because it's a very similar relationship. So if those three things are not present, in my mind, the collaboration won't work. So our main purpose as an organization is to help people live better lives. And we see that manifest itself in us helping people create jobs that they love. And through those jobs, they actually give back to the community so much more. We also are creative thinkers. So when we're thinking about people's daily lives and helping them create jobs that they love, we don't want to then not think about the other factors that go into their happiness. So that goes toward transportation choices, housing choices, food choices, health choices. We really, really want to think holistically about that individual and how we can help improve their lives on all different fronts. So we encourage people to think differently and to think creatively about all of those choices that they make every day, which is spending money, where they live, how far they commute, how they commute, what they're eating. And a lot of times it boils down to a lot of our clients have purpose in what they do, which means that they really care about what they're doing and that it brings them some kind of joy to be doing it. It's some sort of inherent joy that they take from doing their job. And we find that aligning a lot of those people or connecting a lot of those people, it just improves the welfare of everyone's life. So a lot of our clients are in so many diverse parts of, or diverse sort of areas. So we have clients that are in the health field. We have yogis. We've got chefs. We've got people who are attempting to connect local farmers to people in the inner city. And all of those jobs, the connection and the thread between them is that these people have purpose. And so we've found that connecting them to each other, it just naturally helps the welfare of everybody, which really helps in a global sense. It helps sustainability. It helps welfare. It helps people being healthier. It's these creative thinkers who have purpose in their small parts of the economy or small parts of the world, that by connecting them, they influence other people and they show people another way to live. And it's because they care so much about what they do. So for us, that's really the legacy that we leave, is that we invest in jobs and in people who have purpose. And typically purpose is not always boiled down to money. Purpose is boiled down to living a better life, caring about what you're doing, improving life. And so in all different spectrums, by supporting people who have purpose, I think we have such a great legacy to leave people with.